Hi, my name is Kim Witten, and I'm at the University of York in the UK. So as a sociolinguist, I'm primarily interested in language evolution and language change, and we know that new words have been entering the lexicons of languages all over the world through the medium of the internet, through computer-mediated communication. And many people have looked at the etymologies of these words, but few people have looked at the sociophonetics, so how words are pronounced, how social meaning is attached to certain forms. This has prompted several general research questions for me. First, how do we pronounce these new forms? Which social factors are influencing us? Why? And then also, how do the forms take on social meaning in a text-based medium? This is the notion of enregisterment, which has been defined by Asif Aga as whereby distinct forms of speech come to be socially recognized as indexical, meaning they point to or reference speaker attributes by a population of language users. So how we know that certain phrases, ways of speaking belong to certain social groups. The process by how that happens. And then furthermore, how people are using these forms in the construction of identity. This points to the notion of stance, which I'm using Engelbretton's definition here as a personal attitude, belief, or evaluation. Metafilter provides a very good example of a good resource for looking at these three research questions. There's been a 10-year debate on Metafilter about the pronunciation, the abbreviated name of their website, Metafilter. They've also been talking about how to pronounce the name by which they use to refer to themselves. I'll be using these two terms together, calling them the M set, and that allows me to talk about them both as variables at the same time, also without biasing you with my pronunciation. And as I said a minute ago, the pronunciation of the M set is subject of a 10-year debate on Metafilter. And I'm going to play you a sound clip right now that gives you kind of a flavor of what the debate's been like. This is the moderators talking on one of the early podcasts, discovering that one of the other moderators has a differing pronunciation.
That'd be cool if you did that, if you had almost just like the three Metafilter questions.
Well, how do you pronounce it is question number one.
Yeah, that's obviously going to be a big one.
Yeah.
It's MeFi. It's Mephites. Metafilter. Ask me.
Mephite? Oh.
Mephite. I don't know. It rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, like a turd.
So you can hear a bunch of different stances there and evaluations and reactions as well. So with sociophonetics, I want to run through the sociophonetic variants of this first form. We have 8 common ways that people tend to pronounce them. So we've got MeFi, 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 and MeFi, and MyFi. These are tied to social factors, such as dialect, age, education, background, social groups. There's many more. So these phonetic variants interact with the social factors, and this is mediated through stance and stance taking. This is more than people arguing on the internet about how to pronounce words. The M set is representative of a whole category of forms that are entering the lexicons of languages all over the world. How are these forms getting enregistered? Names themselves are indexical of specific histories. They point to different ideologies, backgrounds, persons, belief systems. Many examples of this. GIF versus GIF, Linux, Peking, Beijing. There's the recent work by Lauren Hall-Liu and colleagues looking at different socio-political persuasions that are indexed by different pronunciations of Iraq, whereby one pronunciation might be more strongly associated with, let's say, a progressive or liberal ideology, and the other phonetic variant might be more correlated with Republican or conservative ideology. So these names, they become linguistic resources in stance taking. And this process of enregisterment, how forms, ways of speaking, sounds become indexical of particular social groups, starts with stance taking. It's roughly a 3-step process. So we see an example here with the M set. The first step, somebody takes a stance. So a sociolinguistic variant is associated with an interactional stance. We have an example here of a comment. Also, Mefi sounds like a cute corgi, where the phonetic variant Mefi is equated with cuteness and corgi-ness. Next step, these stances are repeated over time. The patterns of frequency and saliency emerge. So the association between Mefi and cute is noticed, reinforced by others, so it's propagated. And you see different variants of it of different types of comments that are reinforcing this association of MeFi with cuteness. And then this idea becomes entrenched in the community. It gets strongly tied to identities or the group itself. And the identity of that person or group is established through this patterning of regularly taken stances. So at that point, MeFi, that phonetic variant, indexes both cuteness as well as a Mephite or Mephite identity. So these phonetic variants of the MSET are undergoing enregisterment, and it's happening very slowly as participants are building up this entire landscape of all the different associations. New participants are always joining the debate as they join the community. And any one variant can have different associations, conflicting beliefs that people have about what those variants sound like, what they index, what they mean. These associations are also constantly changing, but over time, recognizable patterns do emerge. By tracking this, by looking at the variables and the variants and examining these stances that people are taking, we can go back to our general research questions and look at these two related processes. So how language change and evolution is happening, also how identity, both group and individual identity, is created, established, and recognized by others, both within the community, but also outside of communities.